Maryland. I'm Christian Schaefer and from WMAR2 News, and thanks so much for joining us for our Day of Answers about the flu season here as we get into the middle of October. I'm joined by Dr. April Ruffin. She is a hospitalist at GBMC. Dr. Ruffin, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, and just talk a little bit about what it means to be a hospitalist. I'm not sure it's a term that all the viewers are that familiar with. I know I wasn't until about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, certainly. So a hospitalist is usually an internal medicine specialist. We also do have some family medicine doctors as well who do hospitalist medicine. And our primary responsibility is to take care of patients who end up in the hospital. We generally, I like to think of us as the captains of the ship in coordinating your care. So if we feel the need to get subspecialists involved in your care, as well as pulling in social workers, case managers, physical occupational therapists, and other ancillary services to take care of you while you are here. So we pretty much coordinate all of that care while you're here. So if you're sick enough to usually end up in the hospital, you usually will be seen by a hospitalist while you're in the hospital.
So for the general public, it's still flu season. It's coming. It's around the corner. Whereas for you, I feel like you must see it coming more like a freight train. Like, here it comes. The patients are coming. They're going to be, it's flu season. It's now starting to get here. What's that like for you, just knowing that you're going to see a bit of an increase in people who wind up having to be hospitalized for this very common virus?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the last, compared to last year, because we still had a lot of masking and mask mandates, we saw much lower levels of flu than we have ever seen in the 10 years prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. So as we are opening up more and mask mandates are being lifted, or just suggestions and not requirements, we are expecting to see more flu this season compared to last year. And because of that, a lot of people focus just on COVID-19, but we have to still remember that flu season is approaching us. So it usually starts around October and leads all the way in through January, sometimes February. And that's for the North America region. It varies a little bit when we're talking about other regions in the world. But here, that's usually our flu season. So it's important that in order for us to continue to stay healthy and take precautions, getting a flu vaccine is one of those ways in which we can prevent ourselves from getting the flu. And if we still do get the flu, preventing us from ending up sick enough to be in the hospital, or even worse, dying from the flu. So it's important that we prevent those types of things from happening.
So yeah, Dr. Ruffin, as your role as a hospitalist, working with patients who are hospitalized at GBMC, some of them potentially with the flu, can you talk about what it's like to treat a patient who has a case of the flu that's so serious that they have to be hospitalized? I have to assume a lot of the viewers haven't had one that serious. Those that have, if you've had the flu at all, people generally talk about feeling like you've been hit by a truck. So it can be tough to be even a case that keeps you at home. But I imagine to have to be hospitalized with a case of the flu is a pretty severe case.
Yes. So the CDC has actually done studies in which they usually look at about the last 10 years, minus, last year with the pandemic being at the highest. But we have on average at least about 12,000 or so deaths that we see. And then we also see millions of cases of the flu, anywhere up to about 45 million cases of flu within the last 10 years. And we have up to about 800,000 people that end up in the hospital. So from the time that I've started with my residency training, even moving up towards being attending, I've taken care of several hundred patients that have had the flu and have been sick enough to actually end up in the ICU, which is our intensive care unit. So that's the sickest of the sick. And it's no easy feat. And I've seen patients come in with fevers, and people ended up with pneumonias, not just from flu, but then where they end up having to be treated for bacterial pneumonias, and then have ended up on ventilators. And then I've seen the transition from them being to the floor and then into the ICU. And so when you're a resident, a lot of times we're more privy to seeing that trend of end up taking care of that patient from the floor, medicine floor, even working our way up to the ICU. So in seeing that breadth of clinical change in a patient, I've definitely seen people get so sick that they've ended up on a ventilator. And then we also have to consider that a lot of Americans have other health issues. We have a lot of people that have diabetes and high blood pressure, asthma, COPD, people who are taking immunosuppressants for autoimmune diseases. And so all these people are, at risk of getting really sick. And a lot of them never thought to even get the flu shot. So people don't think of it as serious as ending up in the hospital, but we do take care of several thousands of patients in the hospital for the flu. And then when they have other medical issues, it can make their stay even more complicated. So I think that's what people should also keep in mind as well as we enter the flu season. So yes, you can end up sick enough to end up in the hospital for flu.
And so the time to get the flu shot, it sounds like, is now. I believe the CDC recommends by the end of October. So at this point, you are probably in a position where you're just hoping that a lot of people around the region will start to get that flu shot.
That's absolutely correct. So the current guidelines are that anyone that's 6 months, years of age and older should all get the flu shot. And that also includes pregnant women as well. And so usually we encourage small children and pregnant women in their third trimesters to get the flu shot as early as possible. So for example, if the flu shot is available in August and you're in your third trimester of pregnancy, you should get the flu shot a little earlier, because then when you deliver, you're able to pass those antibodies on to baby. But for the rest of us who are not in that group, which is like someone like myself, and that's for the majority of other people, we do recommend getting the flu shot by the end of October. But let's say, okay, well, maybe I missed October. It's December. Is it too late? Absolutely not. It's not too late. As long as flu season is going on, we will still vaccinate you. So we encourage the earlier the better, so that we try to get you immunized before the height of the season, which usually starts picking up around November leading into January, so that you can give your body enough time to build up a good defense. So when you do come in contact with the flu, because we all will at some point come in contact with the flu virus at some point, that we have some level of protection against us, almost like an umbrella from the rain that'll help to help prevent us from getting super sick from flu. So yes, this is the perfect time to start getting immunized for the flu.
And a lot of people at this point may have gotten, or it may be coming up to the time where they might get a booster shot for the COVID-19 vaccine. Some of the earliest people to get it, it's getting on almost 10 months now since they would have gotten the two-shot dose. So should people have concerns about potentially getting that booster shot of the COVID-19 vaccine and now being the time to get the flu shot as well?
So the simple answer to that question is no. You can actually get your third COVID shot and the flu shot at the same time. However, I've had colleagues, because as doctors, we're patients too, so we think about these things as well. So you can technically get them at the same time. However, there's some people who do choose to get one and then the other. At one point, we used to think that you had to wait 2 weeks between getting a flu shot or any other type of immunization and then getting a COVID-19 shot. But we've realized now that that is not true. However, if you choose to get them one at one time and then wait 1 or 2 weeks and get the other, that's perfectly acceptable too. Usually for us, if we can get someone in and get them immunized and we have a higher rate of getting people the immunizations that they need if we are able to get them right then and there. So yes, you can get your flu shot and your COVID-19 shot at the same time. Me personally, I chose to get mine separately just because I wasn't sure how I was going to react to the COVID-19 shot, and I'm working at the same time. So I have to be well enough to take care of patients. But there's no right or wrong way. But yes, you can get both of them at the same time. I think the biggest thing is we're just pushing people to get it. So if you decide, oh, yes, I'm going to get it, then yes, you can get your flu shot today. And then if you want to wait a week or two, you can get your COVID-19 shot. And be mindful that when you do get them at the same time, we do immunize you. You get one in each arm. So you'll get like your COVID-19, let's say your left, and your flu shot, or if you want to get your shingle shot if you're due for that, or your Tdap shot or something like that, we'll use the other arm instead.
It feels like for the past year and a half now, a lot of people have been learning more about vaccines and viruses, and now recently with the COVID-19 vaccine out, there are some people who still get a case of COVID-19 even if they've been vaccinated, and I assume it's been that way with the flu in previous years. And yet the breakthrough cases with COVID, what we hear is that they don't tend to be as serious as someone who was completely unvaccinated. Has it been your experience in seeing patients that's the same for the flu vaccine? In other words, if people get the flu shot and then wind up getting the flu over the winter, they might not get as serious a case of it as someone who didn't get the flu shot.
Yes. So the flu shot is not 100% effective. So, but we do know that it does significantly reduce your risk of getting the flu. And if you do happen to get the flu, it does decrease your risk of ending up in the hospital, and it also decreases your risk of death. Pretty significantly, actually. If you happen to get the flu and you happen to end up sick enough to be in the hospital, you have about a 20 to 30% decrease of ending up in the ICU. And that's in general across the board. And that's very significant. So that's what we do know about the flu vaccine. And as you mentioned before, it's similar to the COVID-19 vaccination. So the majority of patients I've taken care of who have been sick enough with the flu to end up in the hospital, most of them have not been immunized for the flu vaccine. And the same goes with COVID-19 as well. But what we do know about both vaccines is that both the COVID-19 vaccinations, whether you choose Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson, because those are the three available for us here in the United States, as well as the flu vaccine. And we have several types of flu vaccines that are all equally effective that are available to us here in the United States. We know that when you do get immunized with these vaccines, that neither one of them are 100% effective, but they both decrease your risk of ending up in the hospital if you do happen to get COVID-19 in the case of the COVID-19 vaccine, or even with flu, given with the flu vaccine. And it also decreases your risk significantly of death. So that's why we really push for people that even though neither vaccine, whether it be COVID-19 vaccine or flu vaccine, are 100% effective, we know that they work because we know that they decrease the likelihood that someone gets so sick that they need to be hospitalized.
I feel like one of the reasons that some people may not get vaccinated against the flu, it may not be the best reason, but it just seems like it's what they come back with, is that they just never have done it before, and they've never gotten the flu before, and so in their personal experience they feel like they don't need it. But that seems like it's a hard wall to get over in convincing somebody to go ahead and get the flu shot.
Yeah, that's correct. And a lot of times the majority of cases that we see are people who've never had the flu before. So, and we also have to think about our households and our communities. So if you have a new grandbaby, okay, and you want to spend time with that new grandbaby, well, that new grandbaby, their little immune systems are not as robust. So, there's certain vaccines, including flu vaccine, that we can take to protect ourselves and to also protect us from passing or getting other people sick around us. And we have to also realize that even if we've never gotten sick with the flu, doesn't mean that we actually can't get the flu. So it's about protecting ourselves, but also about protecting our families. And myself, I've gotten my flu vaccine every year since medical school, because I too, when I was younger, you're 18, 19, you're like, oh, I don't need to get the flu vaccine. I'm young, but when you know better, you do better. And so since medical school, I've been getting flu vaccine every year since that time. And yes, I have gotten flu and have gotten the flu vaccine, but I did not end up in the hospital. I took my Tamiflu and I was able to get back to work and to take care of people as well. So, I'm living proof that the flu vaccine works, and that, you can still get sick, but I wasn't sick enough to end up in the hospital, and my disease course was pretty short. So that was also a good thing as well, which the evidence shows it helps with that too.
Dr. Ruffin, what's your level of confidence that people are going to be as careful this winter as they were last year? It seems like January, it was really kind of, I'm not sure what the height of the pandemic was anymore because it's gone on so long, but it does seem like people took a lot of precautions last year with the masks and the washing of the
Yeah.
hands. It would be nice if they went ahead and did all those things this year, right during flu season. But what are
Yeah.
you thinking as far as that part of preventing the flu? Maybe not quite as severe as it
Mhm.
was last year.
I will say it's a little scary going in, especially seeing the highs and lows of the pandemic. So we've had multiple spikes, which as scientists we predicted would happen because we when we look at like the Spanish flu and how you had the peaks and the valleys during those seasons, we've seen similar with COVID-19 as well. And particularly as we're entering the holiday season, we did find that there were other spikes coming out of, your Thanksgiving, Christmas, and those holiday seasons that are often celebrated from November through January. And we did start to see the spike and the climb go back up because people get tired, they want to see family, which is completely understandable. But I think that we have to remember that we're still in a pandemic. And I think people tend to forget that. And with the pandemic, we still have other communicable diseases that exist. So I think it's important for us to still use those same precautions moving forward because we've lived with the flu for a very long time. And we've learned a lot since the pandemic. Well, particularly in the United States with the Spanish flu that was from 1918 till 1920. So we've learned a lot from that, and we've taken that information to apply now so that we are able to significantly decrease hospitalizations and death. So what I would say is, as we're entering in the season, especially as we're entering into the holiday and the cooler months and getting into the height of flu season, I think we still need to be vigilant. We still need to carry on the frequent hand washing. I think we still need to consider, where you live and what the incidence of COVID is in your area, and flu is all around, all around us. So I still encourage people when they're in public places to, with large crowds, to still mask, get vaccinated with both COVID-19 and for flu vaccine, because these are all things, it's all a big umbrella that we are building for ourselves to protect us from the rain. So the rain in this case is flu and COVID. And I think as we continue to do those things, and hopefully our cases with COVID in particular will continue to dwindle, but I think it's important for us to still maintain that umbrella for ourselves, and the flu vaccine helps create that umbrella. So I think moving forward, as we're going into the holiday season, to protect ourselves and protect our families, that getting immunized is one of the best ways that we can do that. And also, if you're sick, stay home. Visit family when you're feeling better, when you're feeling well, because we don't know if you have COVID, if you have flu, if you have some other kind of viral illness that can spread and get other people sick. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that we've taken from the pandemic, is that when you're sick, we really need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and giving ourselves enough grace to say, it's okay if I can't make that family event or that event with friends because I'm sick. And I'm not only protecting myself and getting myself well, but I'm also protecting others around me.
Okay, Dr. April Ruffin, a hospitalist at GBMC in internal medicine. Thank you so much for doing this today, Dr. Ruffin, and thanks for
Yes.
all the work you've done with patients throughout this pandemic and before as well. And it's been wonderful talking to you, and best of luck here heading into flu season. I'm sure you're hoping it's not very busy this time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, Dr. Ruffin, thanks very much to you, and thanks for watching this special presentation here on the WMAR2 News Facebook page here on our Day of Answers about the flu. Have a great day.